In a single day, everything you love vanishes. Your possessions, your achievements, your family, your health. Everything slips away like sand through your fingers. Suddenly, you find yourself alone, surrounded by the deafening silence of overwhelming loss. That is exactly what happened to Job, a prosperous man, devoted to God, who had everything. Until the unexpected struck, one blow after another. He lost his children, his wealth, and even his health, consumed by painful sores. His friends distanced themselves. His wife turned her back on him. Imagine the weight of every second, the pain that seemed endless. And in the midst of this suffering, Job did something that few could ever do. He did not give up. But how? What sustained him when anyone else would have crumbled? How did he find the strength to endure when everything seemed meaningless? If you've ever faced difficult moments where your faith was tested, this video will reveal 5 powerful lessons from Job's story. Principles that can transform the way you face challenges, pain, and even life's injustices. So, go ahead and like this video now, and join me on this journey of faith, resilience, and triumph. Job's story is more than just a tale of suffering. It is a manual of strength, patience, and unwavering faith. But do we truly understand what made this man stand firm when everything seemed lost? Have you ever noticed that some people face the worst storms in life and come out even stronger, while others crumble at the first sign of trouble? What makes the difference? What separates those who overcome from those who give up? Today, you will discover 5 resilience principles taken directly from Job's story. Powerful lessons that can completely transform how you approach challenges, losses, and moments of uncertainty. But here's something that few people realize. Job's victory was not just about patience. There was something much deeper, something that could completely change the way you deal with suffering. So keep watching, because by the end of this video, you will discover a little-known detail about Job, one that could forever change your perspective on pain and victory. Job was a righteous, upright man, devoted to God. He lived a life of abundance, surrounded by everything anyone could ever wish for: a loving family, fertile lands, countless livestock, and the respect of all around him. His name was synonymous with prosperity and blessing. But all of that changed in an instant. In a single day, his life was shattered. A messenger came running with the first devastating news. His livestock had been stolen, his source of wealth wiped out. Before he could even process the loss, another servant arrived, breathless, reporting that a fire had consumed everything. And then came the worst news of all. His children, all of them, were gone, crushed under the collapse of the house where they had been celebrating together. What would you feel if you heard something like this? Imagine losing your entire family in the blink of an eye. Job's heart was shattered, his soul plunged into indescribable pain. And as if that weren't enough, his health began to deteriorate. His body was covered in open wounds, his skin filled with sores. Every movement brought him pain, and even the air seemed heavy upon him. But perhaps the deepest wound came from those around him. Instead of comforting him, his friends implied that he was merely reaping the consequences of his own mistakes. To them, no one suffered this much without a hidden reason. And his wife, the one who should have been his pillar, looked at him with contempt and said, "Curse God and die." Now stop and think. What if it were you? If everything you loved disappeared, if you lost your health, your family, your livelihood, would you be able to endure it? Most people would collapse. They would rebel, lose hope. But Job didn't. He didn't understand the reason for his suffering, yet he refused to let it push him away from God. Even in his pain, even without answers, he chose to trust. And this is where his story turns into a powerful lesson. Job didn't just survive. He left behind a legacy of resilience, a blueprint for enduring life's worst storms without being consumed by them. But what was his secret? How did he find the strength to keep going when everything fell apart? That's what we're about to uncover. Now, think about your own life. Have you ever faced a moment when everything seemed to fall apart? Situations where, no matter how hard you tried, things only got worse? Maybe a door suddenly closed, someone you loved walked away, or an unexpected storm took away what you cherish most. And in those moments, have you ever wondered if you were being tested? Have you ever felt like God was silent, as if your prayers were echoing into emptiness? Job knew that silence. He cried out, questioned, wept, but he received no immediate answers. He was abandoned by friends, dismissed by his own wife, and his body became a battlefield of suffering. But in the midst of it all, he discovered something profound. Pain can be a pathway to something greater. And here's the real question. How did he endure? How can someone keep believing when there is nothing left around them? That's exactly what we're about to reveal. The 5 life-changing lessons from Job's resilience. And pay close attention, because the last one might completely change the way you see life's challenges. But before we continue, subscribe to the channel now. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any content. And after watching, share this video with someone who needs this message today. Let's walk this journey of faith and strength together. Job lost everything. His family, his wealth, his health, his dignity. But even when everything seemed meaningless, he didn't give up. He found strength where many would have crumbled. How? Because his resilience wasn't based on what he had. It was based on who he was. And that is exactly what we can learn from his story. The first lesson Job teaches us is accepting what we cannot control. He understood that some things are beyond our power to change. But even in the face of unimaginable tragedy, he chose how he would respond. He didn't rebel against God. He didn't sink into bitterness. He cried, yes. He suffered, but he didn't let pain destroy who he was. The second lesson is patience as a tool for growth. Job didn't get immediate answers. God's silence may have been the most painful part of his trial, but he didn't stop waiting. He teaches us that some answers take time, and that growth through adversity requires patience. The third lesson is the hardest for many, keeping faith in the midst of suffering. When everything was taken from him, Job could have blamed God, but he didn't. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" he simply remained faithful, trusting that even if he didn't understand, God was still in control. The fourth lesson is filtering out negative voices. His friends condemned him. His wife told him to give up. But Job didn't let the destructive words around him define his journey. How many times do we let criticism, doubt, or negativity shake our faith? Job teaches us that not every voice deserves to be heard. And finally, the fifth lesson, trials come before rewards. At the end of his journey, God restored everything Job had lost and gave him twice as much. He didn't just survive his suffering. He was transformed by it. His faith didn't just sustain him. It elevated him to a new level of blessing. Now, here's something few people ever realize about this story. Job is often remembered as an example of patience. But was patience alone what sustained him? The answer might surprise you. What truly kept Job standing wasn't just waiting. It was the fact that he never stopped crying out to God. He suffered, he wept, he lamented his pain, and he asked difficult questions. He wasn't afraid to express his anguish, but he never turned away from God. He could have remained silent. He could have given up, but instead, he kept calling out. Even without answers, even in divine silence, he never broke his communication with the Creator. And this is where something incredible happens. God finally responds to Job, but not in the way he expected. God didn't give him explanations about why he suffered. Instead, he revealed himself to Job in his glory. Job didn't receive a simple why. He had a direct encounter with God, and that changed everything. Instead of just understanding divine purposes, he experienced God like never before. And that means the answer you're waiting for might not come in the way you expect. Maybe God won't give you all the explanations right now, but if you keep calling out, you may be on the verge of your own transformation. And if you want more insights on how to turn your faith into real strength, subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications so you never miss any life-changing content. The story of Job teaches us a powerful truth. No pain is permanent, and every trial has a purpose. What seemed like the end for him was actually the beginning of something far greater. If you're going through a difficult moment, Remember this: God is not silent. Just because you don't hear an answer right now doesn't mean He isn't working. Sometimes He doesn't give us explanations. He gives us a transformative encounter. He strengthens us, shapes us, and prepares us for something far greater than we could ever imagine. Job suffered, but he persevered, and in the end, he received twice what he had lost. His faith was rewarded. Now, I want to know, which of these 5 lessons touched you the most? Which one can you apply to your life today? Write in the comments and share your experience. I want to read your story. And if this message spoke to your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel now, turn on notifications, and send this video to someone who needs this word today. Let's spread faith, hope, and transformation together.